Ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add grooves to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. The 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. Which may have felt anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
And good morning. Welcome to Transition Radio Show, live from Miami, Florida. And my guest, I think, is in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. I'm hearing a funny sound in the background. This is really weird. But hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Before I bring Jessica in, let me go ahead and give you a little background about Jessica. Jessica Alonso was born April 6, 1962, in the neighborhood of El Vedado, within the city of Havana. Wow, I was born in Havana too. My mom and I left Cuba in 1969. You left the same time that we did, leaving behind, my father and two brothers. Both my brothers escaped Cuba in a raft. Oh my God, my mom's brother escaped in a raft. And my father was never allowed to leave since he's the one who helped build the raft and helped them escape. My father died in Cuba when I was 17. I grew up in Miami, Florida, surrounded by great family and friends. I have three sons. One is almost 36, married with two beautiful boys. One is 20 years old and attends Georgia Tech. And then my baby is 17 and will be a senior in high school. Our 20-year-old son told us less than a year ago that he identifies as a transgender woman and that he began feeling this way in January of last year. This also happens to be the same time he started attending Georgia Tech and meeting people in the LGBTQ community. He claims this is a very welcoming and supportive community. As a child, he never manifested or showed any feminine tendencies. He enjoyed watching Crocodile Hunter, Mythbuster, Ben 10, etc. He also loved math, science, robotics, chemistry, and physics. After having him tested in middle school, we learned he had borderline Asperger's syndrome and is also highly intelligent. In high school, he fell in love and had several girlfriends. As you can imagine, this has been devastating to our family. I've been doing a lot of research on the internet, and I feel very strongly that our youth is being lied to. Now, welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
You look like the internet is kind of fading a little bit on us. Yeah. I'm wondering if you have any programs open in your computer, if you could shut them all down and just leave this particular, because sometimes other programs might end up, because it wasn't doing that when we were running a test. Good morning, team. Good morning, Doug. Good morning, Vahid. And good morning, all of you that are joining us this morning. You are an amazing individual. You reached out to me and said that you wanted to help as best as possible. Because you're like totally in shock, from what's taking place. It's very interesting because were your sons, they weren't born in Cuba, they were born here, correct?
Oh, they were born here in the States,
okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, when you were in Cuba, did you take any medication, any kind of anti-miscarriage medications or anything like that? Anything that could have possibly?
Not that I'm aware of, just, your regular vaccines, I guess.
That's a can of worm on in itself. Yeah. I know that when we left Cuba, they gave us this vaccine, which to this day I still have.
Yes, and that I have.
Yeah, and I kind of, I don't know. I don't know. All the there's a lot of chemicals in the environment that create a lot of what I call neurological impairment. You stated earlier that your son has been diagnosed with Asperger's. Let me go back here. And that's interesting because very few people do run these tests. What made you go ahead and have him tested?
Just the fact when he was in elementary school, I knew early on that he was different. He's, like I said, highly intelligent, and he was asking for chemistry sets when he couldn't speak. He'd draw the little vial. He started showing an interest in math at a very young age, asking for calculus books. Not to mention, he was also a perfect child. He never gave any trouble at all. So I just knew there was something different about him as far as his intelligence. And then at school, he also went to the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math as soon as he was in the 4th grade. In 3rd grade, his teachers recommended him to go into the STEM program because of his intelligence. And then in middle school is when I was just saying, he's not the normal child. And they went ahead and tested him. And that's when we found out that not only did he have an incredibly high IQ, an IQ of 149, but also he was borderline Asperger's. And I don't think they even say Asperger's anymore. It's now falls under the autism spectrum.
Yeah, because they changed that around.
Yeah.
So did you go ahead and close all the programs except for where you did?
Yeah. Are we still having difficulty?
Well, it's your like melting kind of thing. I mean, we could hear you, but your picture, I don't know if you could see yourself, how you're coming out.
I can. Yeah, I can. I can see both of us.
Right. Can you see yourself blurry, or do you see yourself?
No.
No, you see yourself clear. Okay, so we'll have to just, as long as we could hear you. Good morning, Sherry. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. So I find it very interesting because the majority of individuals who claim to have gender dysphoria, the majority of them are extremely smart, but almost smart to the point that they can't engage socially. They have social difficulty. They're very nerdy. They do, a lot of them are into the IT and computer, and they love fantasy and games and reading things at what they call something fantasy, where they fantasize being a woman or something else, and anything that has to do with changing, because there's something they don't like their image. Did he show signs of disliking how he looked like at any point?
I don't recall that. When he was in middle school, we were in Maryland when he started middle school, and then we moved here to Georgia. Once we moved here, back in Maryland, he was not as social, but once we got here and he started interacting with other children, he became a lot more social. And in high school, he was into all these kinds of different clubs. He was in robotics, the science Olympiads. He went to, at Emory, a girlfriend or a girl that he really liked encouraged him to do the linguistics. Computational linguistics, and he entered that at Emory University. He actually got into nationals. So he was very involved, math club, robot, German, or he speaks German. He went to Germany for 6 weeks. So he was very involved. His attitude changed once we came here. He was a lot more open, friendly than when we were in Maryland. When we were in Maryland, we were in a small town, so that may have been, he was more reserved there. He had a couple of friends, but not as many as he does or did here.
Okay. So let's go back from childhood. What signs, you said he didn't show any sign of femininity.
No.
His father engaged with him as a normal father would, playing
Yeah.
ball. Give me a little scenario how he was growing up, so that.
He was not into sports.
Okay.
He played soccer for a while and then said, I just don't like this. I don't want to do it. So I did not push it.
Right. Was he in
Other than that,
coordination? Was he like a little
yeah,
off?
he's not very athletic at all.
Okay.
Other than that, he was fine. He played like a normal child. He read a lot of books.
Okay.
Like I said, watched all of these shows that were not at all I just don't look at those shows and think, oh, that's feminine. Like Mythbusters, Crocodile Hunter.
Right.
His favorite movie is The Matrix. So,
Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting because who wrote The Matrix is a trans woman, and it's like I find.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't watched that in years. Okay.
There was a trans woman who wrote that. I find it very interesting.
Okay.
Because as a person with a trans history as myself, I find that many of us always need to escape. It's like an escape is from some sort of pain, from something. So movies like that, sci-fi movies, Matrix, things of that nature appeal to us.
Okay.
So was there ever any particular trauma? And think really deep, because sometimes we don't think something as trauma, but sometimes when a person is very sensitive and it appears that your son maybe was excessively sensitive, majority of trans identified women are very sensitive. They don't fit in to the typical macho man type of role.
Right.
Was there anything that kind of made him maybe like revert inside and not want to accept his birth sex?
I can't really think of anything.
Okay. No major breakup with a girlfriend, an interaction with his father that could have like.
We had a very normal family life. He was madly in love with a young woman, and this is actually the young woman that they went all kinds of places together as far as math competitions, the computational linguistics. He would go everywhere she went. Her feelings for him were not reciprocal. Wow. But I think that happens to everybody. So I didn't think of that as a
factor.
Exactly. And after that, he had another girlfriend, and then after this particular young woman, he then had another girlfriend. So yes, he was very hurt because I know he was in love with this young woman. But other than that, and I don't know if maybe that was a turning point for him, that rejection.
Rejection is a big factor in the life of those that live the LGBT life. I mean, I've done a lot of research, and rejection is something very big that it almost like that pain makes you either create a character, or want to not be the sex that you're born as, or make you attracted to the same sex. I've done a lot of research. There's a lot of stuff out there regarding this. Now, how was the relationship with his father?
They've always had a very good relationship.
They've always had a good relationship.
Yeah. We've always had dinner together as a family. We've had the normal, TV's never been on while we have dinner. We would travel, always traveled with our boys. So our relationship has been a good one.
Okay. Is he the youngest? You
He's
said
the- he's- well, my oldest son is from a previous marriage,
okay.
and then he's the oldest from my second marriage. I have two other sons with my current husband, two sons with my current husband. He's being the oldest of our marriage.
So he's the oldest of all
No, he's the middle of all,
middle one.
middle one of all, but yeah, oldest of my current husband and myself.
Okay. And when he had that breakup or that rejection, did you notice any change in his personality? Did he start? Because sometimes when we're rejected and we see that, we automatically think something's very wrong with us. We start feeling shame. And so what I find in trans identify individuals, that we try to create this person. Sometimes it's like to hide our pain. Sometimes it's like we want to create this perfect woman that, it's, how do I explain this? Because we feel like, okay, no woman's going to love us. So we create this particular, and this happens with trans women. They create the woman that
they want to be, okay.
Yeah, or they want to have in their life
yeah,
or something like that. I mean, it's really deep.
Really complicated, yeah.
Very complicated. You are a Christian family.
I am.
Yes. Oh, okay. So not both the father. Right. Okay. Right. Was that ever a factor? And you raised him believing in the word?
He does not believe. No.
He never believed. As a child, you never tried?
Yes. As a child, yes. But once he was older, he does not.
Okay. When you say older, how old was he?
I probably want to say halfway through middle school.
Okay. So halfway through middle school, when you when you was a little kid, you would probably read.
We would go to church, and my husband would go to church, even though he's really not a believer. But we would go as a family.
Okay. And did he find it odd that one parent was, really strong in God, and the other parent would, maybe that created some sort of pull in his head or like confusion? I'm just trying to find out, because this is really taken.
I don't know. He reads a lot, like I said, and then there's people who just say science and God cannot coexist.
Right.
So, and that's in his mind, that's the reality. So
we were talking earlier, he's pretty strong-headed, and
he is. Although I don't know about now. I think I don't think he's thinking things through anymore. Before, he was very focused and didn't really care about what others thought about whatever. He wouldn't deviate from his thought process. Now it's almost like he's allowing himself to, he's being lied to, and he's running with it.
Right. It seems that the rejection, the confusion, because raise a child right, and he will grow up to be like in the word, right? So that in my opinion, the not having that firm belief is what we're seeing today, because a lot of people they don't believe in God. They're not being raised like we were, like maybe like 50, 100 years ago. People feared God. God was like everywhere. It was in the school. Like, now it's like you said, science dominates. My moderator had a question. How involved were you, Mom, in reading him the scriptures when he was little?
Honestly, I didn't really. I read to him a lot of books, but I did not read him the Bible. I'll be very honest, and that was my
Right.
failure.
But don't beat yourself up, because I talk to a lot of mothers. I get reach from all over the world, and they're like very perturbed. And I've got this one mother who I've been speaking with lately from Mexico, and she was like, Maritza, I've been reading the word to them since they were little. They go to church. They had such love for Father, and all of a sudden, boom.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not guaranteed. Now, the good news is if you raise them that way, they'll eventually come back. That
Right.
is hope with prayer, because you develop, there's like a meter inside of us that we know what's good and we know what's bad. And that's what we call guilt, right? Guilt is God's voice talking to us.
Right.
So it's always good to plant those seeds in our little ones, so that as they get older and they steer away, that little voice will like bug them. Because I know that voice bugged me, because my grandmother was my source of God and prayer and things of that nature. So let's get, so now he's like, he didn't show any signs. While he was home, he didn't mention anything that he wanted to change his body. It was like he was dating girls. He was
He was.
typical nerdy, smart kid.
Mhm.
No signs of androgyny or anything like that. Like he always wore men's clothing, and
Yes, he never. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. When he was little, I always liked that little haircut where they're a little longer for boys. Not, I never did the crew cut thing. I always had that I forget the name of that little haircut, but I had his hair not long, but a little longer.
right?
And I remember him telling me, I think he was in second grade, and he came home and he said, I want you to cut my hair
Huh.
because I don't want to look like a girl. And I'm thinking, well, look like a girl, but okay.
I'm wondering if he got picked on because of that. And
Maybe. Like I said, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go.
We were in a small town in Maryland, so it may have been that most kids were the crew cut type thing, but I didn't think anything of it. And he came home and said, I want you to cut my hair. I'm looking like a girl. Like, okay,
Okay, so that to me sounds like somebody in school
maybe.
looked like a girl, and that was like, sometimes impressionable minds with sensitive individuals that are very smart, that probably think every word. And I'm sure he was like that. Anything you said, he'd like analyze it, and he would take it to heart.
Yeah.
And everything is like a thought process. And we see that a lot in the trans community because of the neurological factor in it. Little things like that, we make this big. I know I'm responsible for doing things like that. So somebody told him he looked like a girl. That kind of probably, okay, we got rejection was the first thing, and his girlfriend. Now he's like, okay, I look like a girl. So he's going to take that in his mind. He's going to run with it. And somebody told him he looked like a girl. So he goes, I must be a girl.
So that was in the second grade. That was in the second grade where he was, haircut because I don't want this.
Right. And that's an age where things are so impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
When we're younger, little things, especially very sensitive-minded people,
Right.
can literally have small things like that become a mountain. So he had his hair cut. He played with the boys, didn't have any inclination of wanting to play with dolls or any.
Never. So that's why it came as a total shock, because even knowing how he felt about this particular young woman, I know he was madly in love with her, to the point where he told me, I think he was 18 a couple years ago, that he would marry her.
Wow.
So it's.
Yeah, I see that being like that initial, like there's a shock, somebody rejected him. Rejection will cause all sorts of stuff in our minds. And sometimes, it could be the minuteness thing, but in individuals like us who have a neurological impairment,
Right.
It'll become the world's worst thing ever.
Right.
A little thing, a little word. And this is one of the things that I truly want people to understand. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone. And that's what Father wants us to do. But we need to understand this phenomenon, where it's coming from, instead of just writing out hormones and telling people to go ahead and do whatever, because I guarantee no one is born wrong. This phenomenon is very new.
I agree. My thing was, God didn't make a mistake here. You're not, God didn't make a mistake with you. You're not really a woman in a man's body.
Exactly. I mean, that's like, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but that just, it's impossible, because, here you are, from the time you're little, you're acting normal, or not you, your son, and there's no signs, there's nothing, and boom, I mean, I know that there are individuals in the world that have intersex conditions,
Yes.
But that's totally different from what we're seeing, this large amount of people coming out. That's
a minority, of people who are born with both,
It's very far and few between. It's,
right.
And it's not that they're born with both. There's usually some sort of anomaly. Like you can have a testicle and an ovary, a very, what they call a micro, genitalia, and, things of that nature. A lot of intersex people are infertile. They can't reproduce because they don't have, the actual correct chromosome lineup or the correct SRY gene makeup to be able to be fertile. So there's a lot of people claiming to be intersex in the trans community, and it's all based on lies because they want to be accepted. So let's address this question with Vahid. Can she talk a little bit about how this has affected her other children?
It has affected. It's affected the whole family. My oldest son is he's, like I said, he's almost 36, so he talks a lot more about it than my 17-year-old. My 17-year-old did tell him, "You're not my sister." And I think their relationship has been affected. I think more so from my other son, my transgender son, and my oldest son has a lot of trouble with it.
Right.
And he's concerned also because we have I have two grandchildren, and one is he's going to be 7 in the next couple of weeks, and the other one's going to be 2. But I do know that even in where they live, they're in Las Vegas, and the Clark County schools have partnered with this gender. So I think they're trying to get it into even elementary school kids, where they have, books and all kinds of things, just preparing them.
Yeah, it's become a widespread marketing agenda, and I know people don't like to hear that word, but we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it pop up in schools and libraries. California is trying to pass a law right now where pastors are not allowed to say that it's a sin or anything of that nature. And it's important as people that we allow different voices, because when we stop allowing voices, then we're living in a totalitarian, in communism, in Marxism, and that is what this is heading towards. I watched a video the other day, Google, and they're doing this censoring thing in order for them to be able to control elections and control things in people's minds. So, the LGBT things that they're being nice to them. They're being used to bring in a one world government.
I totally agree. And I have to tell you, my son, we're Cuban. I'm Cuban. So he heard exactly.
Juanitas.
He heard me him growing up. He always heard not just myself, but my brothers, my family talk about the dangers of socialism, communism, and all that stuff. Now he has embraced socialism as well, which is like, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
this
it's part of the agenda.
is crazy.
You're breaking.
You know, sorry, can you hear me?
You were breaking up, but you're coming.
I found a little pamphlet from the Democratic Socialists of America that said, you know, with the whatever flag, all the colors, and it said queer liberation, and I'm thinking, really, this is crazy.
I know. It's being used to bring in the New World Order. They don't see it. They don't realize, because, you know, I understand. It's a group of individuals that have been hurt, that have been rejected. And it's interesting because my moderator is reminding me that George, one of my guests that I had, and he's been my guest, and he's also been a guest host, said, he's an ex-gay now, that he was told in second grade he was called gay. So that stuck with him, you know, because anything that in between kindergarten to like fifth grade, we're very, very susceptible to people's suggestions. And then all of a sudden we think that something that somebody said, we make it our own, even though it's not our own thoughts, because it's easily programmable. You know, that's how it goes. But yeah, that the agenda is bringing in socialism. It's really reprogramming the mind of people, not allowing people to think for themselves, you know, censoring those that have a mind that want to speak for themselves. And it's like, you know what? Let both sides speak. Then you make up your mind.
Exactly.
When you remove the other side, you've got communism. We know, because we come from a place that was communist. You know,
we experienced it.
Yeah, and we know exactly how it works.
And I have to say, I think that they are pushing this big time, because the best thing, the way you can get to what their agenda is by destroying the family. You have that complete destruction of family, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They started it with women's lib. Take the mother out of the house, make her work, so we could take the babies and program them. Because this is all about kids. This is all about taking over kids, the minds of the innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been going on for a while. It's like marching forward. It's massive marketing right now, where everywhere you go, you see a rainbow flag.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, you see drag queen story time and this, that, and the other, because they're trying to brainwash people to accepting this as normal. Okay,
and they are, and they're doing it to young children, which to me is criminal. To have the you know, a child at 7 or 8 be put on cross-sex hormones and not allow them to develop.
Yeah.
I think it's criminal what they're doing. Young women getting mastectomies and then I hear a doctor saying, well, then if you change your mind, you can get them back. Well, no, you can't.
I know, it's crazy. It's why put your body through such
what kind of trauma?
Yeah, because it's trauma. It's like I just have a tooth pull and I feel my whole jaw, that everything, you know, you take something that doesn't belong out, everything else is going to be affected. You know, and you put medication in your body that doesn't belong in there, long-term side effects will come along with that medication. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It's not being mean. This is like, you know, I just want people to be aware. Buyer beware.
Yes.
Ultimately, people are going to make up their minds. They're going to do what they want to do. You know, I wish them well. I pray for all of them. I hope that things turn out right. But I have to like sound the alarm because I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt to prove it. I've seen how a lot of people, after they've done what they've done, how miserable they are.
Yeah.
You know, they're still depressed, you know, because at one breath they're like, well, the depression has nothing to do with transition, but then why did you transition?
Right.
Because you were depressed. That's always like the fear of suicide, the I'm not happy, and you know, they think they're going to be happy after they transition.
And they're still depressed.
And they're still depressed. Did you notice any sign of your son who identifies as a trans woman to have any sort of depression before he went to college?
No.
No. Okay,
No, and we actually had him evaluated after the fact. When he did tell us, I told him, I want you to go to a therapist. So I looked for a therapist here in Atlanta that would not affirm this idea. My husband and I met with him first, explained to him what was going on. We wanted to see if he could help us. At that time, he said to us, if he's already on hormones, his mind is made up. There's really not much I can do. However, our son agreed to meet with him. And when he did, he spoke to this psychologist, and he agreed to, the doctor said to him, okay, why don't we do an evaluation? It's about a 2-hour psychiatric evaluation. And then, you know, we can take it from there. You can see. And even at that point showed no signs of depression or anything wrong. At that time, he had just started taking hormones. Now it's been almost a year that he's been on these hormones, and his demeanor, his attitude has changed dramatically.
Yes.
He's angry. He will cry. He was never a crier, and now he'll cry at the drop of a hat. It's like a woman with PMS.
Yeah.
It just, but I mean, we experienced that. But that's something I have noticed in him. And these hormones are not, I actually contacted the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and I asked about the hormones my son was taking, because I've taken pictures of everything. And they informed me that in fact, they were not approved for that.
They're not.
But they can't do anything about it because it's up to the doctor. Yeah. And you know, like I say, my son can't buy a beer, but he can be given these hormones that will affect him for the rest of his life. At this point, he's probably sterile.
Yeah, they do that. And that's another part of the agenda. Now, it's very interesting, and I wanted to really focus on this point that you made. He was healthy mentally, had no depression, no anxiety, no problem, starts on hormones, and now he's facing problems. This is one of the things that I talk about often, how the dangers of taking hormones and what it does to people's psyche, to their emotions, to their neurological system, to their mental and emotional health. It changes them. It changes them dramatically. This is something that, you know, I've witnessed firsthand. You know, I've had many friends who are trans women, and I see the difference. And people report, people that have been around transgender female wives that have been married to a man who now identifies as trans and they're on hormones. The change is horrific. They become angry, bitter, revengeful individuals. I mean, this is not something I'm making up, and I'm not trying to be cruel or mean. It needs to be talked about. Why are we like sweeping things under the rug instead of like, listen, we need to educate people.
Yes. And that's the problem. They are not educated. I spoke to, because I've been contacting half the world. I'm not going to sit by. If I can't help my son, I want to help the children of other people, because no parent should have to go through this. The representative that I contacted, she's in our district, basically said to me, "Oh, just join PFLAG, or it's fine. Just you can't, because he'll be depressed and he'll commit suicide." I'm thinking, where are you getting your information? Do you have any knowledge about what you're saying? And she go, "Oh, I don't know enough." Then don't speak. And I told her, I'm going to get, because I have a notebook full of stuff, Maritza, of doctors and all kinds of information. And I told her, give me a few days and I will start sending you some links so you can at least be aware of what is taking place.
See, what happens though is that a lot of these doctors are bullied, they're silenced, they are told they have to follow this protocol, and anyone that questions that, I mean, even trying to remove therapy, behavioral therapy, and calling it conversion therapy, because they don't want any other thing but this. And this is what upsets me about the LGBT. It's like, oh yeah, if you want to live like this, that's on you, but don't force everybody else to have to deal with it. You want to go and sin and do whatever. And my opinion, this is sin. A lot of people don't believe it is, and I respect that. That's on them. But my belief that it is sin. And so you're sinning and you want everybody else to sin with you. Because if you accept things like this and you allow it, then you're also getting pulled into that world.
Not to mention stated as fact, because that's the thing. They are stating it as fact. And if a doctor, I've read about a bunch of doctors, Dr. Paul McHugh at Johns Hopkins University, he was the head of psychiatry. He shut that.
Okay, you're breaking up. You're going to have to repeat. Okay.
Dr. Paul McHugh.
Okay.
Was the psychiatric chief of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
And they ran a transgender clinic back in the 70s.
Yes.
He actually shut it down when he realized this is not transition is not working. These people are still depressed. Mm-hmm. They've attacked him.
Yes.
Also, Dr. Kenneth Zucker in Toronto, his clinic was shut down.
Yes, and then they lie about them.
And they lie, and they say, "Oh well, no, these people have no idea." Well, these people do know.
Yes, they do. But see, that's part of the agenda. Silence, like they're trying to take my channel down because they're calling my channel full of hate. And it's like I'm not promoting hate. I'm promoting facts. Science and biblical facts. People may not believe in the Bible. Many of us do believe in the Bible, and we believe this is wrong. That's our prerogative. Exactly. We should be allowed to say what we feel. Mind you, we need to learn how to say it in a more loving way. And, sometimes I get frustrated and I might say things that I should tone down my voice a little bit or my demeanor. And I'm going to learn how to do that. Because I want to be effective. I want to be able to reach people. I don't want to push them away further to the abyss. I want to bring them to God. Okay. Right. But it is forced. It's forced. They lie about things. They demonize professionals with truth. So they're afraid now. The professionals are afraid to speak up.
They can lose their licenses. I mean, if you know that if you say something that is not politically correct, even if you have facts to back you up, even when there's facts to back you up, they can't, because they will be shut down and possibly lose, as happened to Dr. Zucker.
Yeah, luckily he got reinstated and he got
But he still had to go
through all this. Yeah, it's like no one wants to have to go through all this. Like I'm back, backing up all the videos that I find that are important, and they have other platforms that I will put them on. But it's like, why maybe go through this? It's not like I'm going to go away. You might try to slow me down, but that's like, why do that? If you don't believe in what I'm saying, then just let it's like we're all entitled to coexist. I want to share a comment that Chabelle Ross, one of our sisters here in chat, and she's a great woman. I've personally spoken to her. She has a very touching story. She writes, my mother presented like a man before transitioning was a topic, which embarrassed me horribly. I think that had a terrible toll on me and how my peers bullied me for my mother's appearance. Now, a lot of individuals in the trans community don't realize that what they do affect others. Like Chabelle was embarrassed by her mother, who now who identified as a lesbian for years, and Chabelle has had issues with same-sex attraction because it's like minds are very what's the word I'm looking for? Impressionable, you know, and it's just like, does your son not realize that what he's doing not only affects you, your husband, his brothers, but his future? You know what?
No, he really doesn't.
Because it's instant. It's like right now, you know.
I asked him to, put a stop to it. Don't take the hormones. Give yourself some years before because he's not even mentally developed yet.
No, not till 25.
Exactly. So give yourself the time. Don't rush into something that you may very well regret. And Maritza, I really believe that he will.
You will. You will.
But he basically said, no, I know for a fact that this is who I am. And now he even wants me to call him we're not even, right now, we're not even talking. He left the house. He does not really communicate. Last time I spoke with him a couple of days ago, because I just need to know, hey, you know what? I need to know you're okay and that you're safe. So he said, I'm fine. So I called him and he did answer. And he basically said to me, I want to be called Anna. And I thought, I'm sorry, I named you when I gave birth to you.
Exactly.
And Anna is not your name.
It's like my mom would tell me, yo sé lo que yo parí. I know who I gave birth to. My mom never called me by my middle name. It was always, tú eres Maritza, y Maritza, you know.
Yes.
And that's how it goes. But he has another statement here. She goes, it's my opinion that even if they're showing signs of effeminacy or masculinity, depending on the sex, at an early age, it's learned and it's environmental. And I truly believe that. I truly believe, that a lot of that takes place.
Yeah, like I said, it was 4 months into his entrance to Georgia Tech. Basically, 4 months, that's all it took.
That's crazy.
And you have professors that are, there are professors, I think all of his professors call him by his.
Yeah, because they're forced to. They're forced to, because it's like people are afraid to be shamed, to get in trouble. And this is like, you know what? This is wrong.
But
you could want to wear a unicorn on your head, and that's on you. But you're not going to force me to call you a unicorn. You know, I mean, and that's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And that's all we're asking, fairness, folks.
Right.
If you have nothing to hide, and this is who you truly are, why do you have to stop people that are bringing another voice, a different voice to what your voice is?
Because I do believe it is an agenda. It's where they want this country to go. And it's going to be the destruction of our nation if we continue down this path.
It is the destruction of humanity.
Exactly. Because then you'll have no males and no females. What is that?
I know, and that's where they're going for.
Binary.
Eliminate, like everybody's going to have an X. We're not going to have male or female. This is something that it's been since the beginning of time. In the beginning, God created Adam and Eve.
Exactly.
You know, not something in between, not,
Seven other, You're either a man or a woman. You either have an X and a Y or an X and an X.
Yes.
What's your choice?
You either have sperm or you have an ovum,
And we were meant to be this way in order to procreate. Otherwise, we'll be extinct.
Extinct. But see what's happening, and I want to say but he says the agenda is not in the nursing home, it's in the schools, because that's what they want. Why not? It's part of this new world order, transhumanism, artificial intelligence movement, where they don't want people to procreate anymore. They want machines. They want to create machines, and they want to be able to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And people are not, in a lot of places, people are not having children.
Yes, exactly. I truly believe that this sterilization agenda has been going on for a long time. It's in our, they put all sorts of chemicals in our food supply, in our water supply, in our air. It's like there is something way bigger than just the trans or the LGBT. That's just a little cog in the big wheel, because there's something way bigger, and people are none the wiser. We're being used as pawn to bring this massive agenda in. But what better way to destroy the world than to destroy the sexes, to destroy the morality
and the families.
In the family, exactly.
But that's the destruction of family. Our family has been torn apart by this. And, I had dreams and aspirations for my son.
Sure.
And he had dreams and aspirations for himself.
Yeah, all out the window.
And I don't know where that's going to go now.
Yeah, because now his focus, it's just now it's like you get on this train, and once you get on the train, the train is like derailed. It has until it just like collides with something. But it's like now that it's like getting procedures done to their bodies, because they become obsessed on their looks and what they want to change.
Yes, and that's something he had never been obsessed about, which is interesting. Now his hair is down to here, and he wants to wear the most ridiculous clothes. And he looks totally ridiculous. You're not a woman. You're a man pretending to be something that you're not.
I know. And it's not like we're trying to be mean to say that comment. It's elementary, my dear. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't equal 5. It doesn't equal 6 or maybe 4.5. There are things in life that are very black and white. I know they're trying to make this whole gender thing very fluid, very out there, but basically the sexes were created for procreation. Biology doesn't care what kind of feelings you have, what you think you are, what you think you should be. It's biology, and then it's very simple. Does he ever dress that way in front of? Well, you said he left, so he doesn't really. You haven't seen him in a while, but when you do,
he was not dressing really that way. But he did go, and I know he bought some women's clothing and like the little short shorts and and I'm thinking, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you thinking? Do you think this will transform you into magically into a woman? I can't tell him that I'm not going to go along with this false narrative that he is a woman. I don't care who tells him he is. He's not.
Exactly. The sad thing is, Jessica, is that the more you tell him that he's not, the more, because part of the Asperger is you never tell an Asperger person they can't do something, because then they want to oh yeah, I'll show you, that kind of, it's part of the logical way of the mind thinking. So like I said, I'm trying to find a way, language to use to actually be able to reach people without pushing them away, without making them angry, because it doesn't solve anything to make anyone angry. And that's something that God is putting in my heart. Yesterday when I went to church, the pastor spoke certain things that really, really got to my heart. So I want to be able, just like Jesus walked around and and walked with the leopards and whatever, but he didn't accept the sin.
Right.
He definitely said, go sin no more.
Right.
But we're hoping that if we could like plant seeds, because with God, everything is possible. And I know that you pray. I'm sure that you've been praying. You know, my mom,
multiple times a day, actually.
my mom didn't stop praying, and God, it took a while. God was a little slow, but God answered her prayer. Better late than never.
Yes.
But, you know, we've got to find words and ways where we could reach these individuals without making them angry, because they become enraged. And,
right.
You know, that's not what we want, because wars solve absolutely nothing.
I understand. However, I can't go and say to him, yes, your name is Anna.
And you shouldn't have to.
I just,
no.
You know.
You shouldn't compromise your view, but it's like maybe not egging him on, telling him, you'll never be a woman, stuff, because that just kind of really agitates them. If you want to see a trans person go berserk, is telling them, you'll never be a woman, you'll never this, you'll never that, you look like, you know, we've got to find ways to use kind words.
Right.
Could like appeal to them with the science without being crude and rude. I mean, we've got to become master in doing this. And
right.
Languages so that we could appeal to them, plant that seed, and then let God do the work. Because ultimately, nothing that I say, nothing that you say, nothing that anyone, nothing that my mother ever said, nothing that anybody said was going to change my mind. But God did.
Right.
You know, and that's what we've got to like learn as a Christian community. How do we reach individuals that are so lost? And that's our opinion. We believe they're lost. They don't think they're lost, but we're entitled to our opinion. And when we lose that, we're in communism. So how do we reach people like that? You know, that's where we're going to have to really learn. And I believe that God's going to equip us with that. The Holy Spirit's going to equip us to be able to find the words that, you know, send them love and compassion. But at the same time, we can't allow them to do what they want, because we know it's not right.
Exactly. And I do. I text him every day. I tell him that I love him no matter what. I love him unconditionally.
Right.
But he doesn't want to listen to if I actually say to him, and I don't anymore, but when I started researching all of this, and I would tell him, you know, can you read? Don't just read one side.
Yeah.
Research.
Exactly.
Do the research.
Yeah. And Chevelle says that she's still suffering a long life trauma. And Millerman says, good morning. What can we do to help Jessica's situation with her son? It's very sad. It is. And like Jessica, there are many mothers out there. There are many wives that have lost their husbands. There are many. I mean, there's just so many victims. And, you know, I could sympathize or empathize with those in the LGBT. I lived it. I was there. You know, I understand. I have a sister who is gay, and it's like, I'm trying to learn how to walk with that, still love her, but realizing that I don't accept that. But I don't, you know, it's hard. It's not easy.
It's very hard.
Anyone.
Yes.
You know, it's not.
It's very hard. It's a slippery slope. And because on the one hand, you do love them. But on the other, you also don't want to encourage and say, yes, go ahead. This is fine. That is the hardest thing for me.
It is because you can't just say, okay, whatever. It's like, because they want to wear you down, you know, they want to wear you down so that you just like, you know, accept them. You know, I remember a famous trans person who was, you know, Caitlin. We know who that they are, and I'm only going to mention them in first name basis. Wanted to literally force their mother to accept that I'm taking you along with me in this ride, come heck or high water. And it's like, why do we have to be forced to see you, to validate people? I mean, that's like, they're not respecting our autonomy, our minds, our beliefs.
And our feelings, because we do have feelings as a parent.
You everything just got caught, so we have to repeat that again for me.
As a parent, I can't just sit by, and because to me it's like he's killing my son, and that is very hard to accept. He won't even look at pictures of himself from a year ago.
Yeah.
Because he feels, so the past 19 years of your life it's been erased.
Exactly.
You're not there. You were never there. That's something that is very difficult for me to grasp and comprehend. I don't get it.
I know. And it's like, you know, there are many people, Jessica, who, all their lives, and we see a lot of trans people. I mean, trans men who were mothers and had kids, and all of a sudden they're like, nope, and they change, and now they identify as a man. It's like, so what happened to all those years in your life? You just, and then they expect the family to just like erase those memories and accept the new them, and that's wrong. That is really wrong, because it's only one-sided. What happens when you have your teeter-totter to one side? It's only one-sided. You're not being fair to the other side. And this is important for people to realize that there are people like Jessica. There are many people out there that there are, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, they are the true victims.
I agree. But I think it's everywhere. I know that the National Institutes of Health gave a grant of $5.7 million to this doctor in Los Angeles who has a transgender clinic.
Yes.
And she has 725 patients, the youngest being 3 years old.
Right. And she's married to a trans guy doctor. I forgot her name now. Do you remember her name?
Joanna Kennedy, Olson Kennedy.
Olson, yes. And she's married to a trans man, and I don't know, but I have suspicion that she has a trans daughter who was born. I mean, I can't fully say that's true, but I did a little homework, and I kind of looked at some of the pictures, and but yeah, and then they're just giving individuals money like that, and it's not a true research test, because it's being driven by somebody who has intentions.
Agenda, exactly.
That you don't run tests like that. You have to run tests somebody who's neutral. You has nothing to gain from this research. Right. It's virtually impossible, because when you run a study or a research, you have to have a double-blinded. You got to get a placebo. Those aren't really tests. So this is like.
And this is the same doctor that claims that if a 15-year-old girl gets a mastectomy, she changes her mind later, she can just go get some new ones. I'm thinking, for a doctor to say this to me is ludicrous. Ludicrous.
We're not Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head. I often say that because, it's true. It's like as kids, we play with Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. You can make Mr. Potato Head back into Mrs. Potato Head, and you can add and remove. We're not that way. I mean, it's the body's not meant for this kind of thing.
I mean, I had breast cancer, so I had to have. I couldn't just go get a new one. This isn't the way it works.
No.
And you don't do that to a 15-year-old. Remove perfectly healthy body parts.
I know, I did it. But I wasn't thinking. I was crazy. I went under the knife. Both had a hysterectomy and top surgery at the same time. I say shame to that Cleveland clinic who did it.
I totally agree.
They had to sign a waiver, like, si te muere, if you die, vaya tú, that kind of thing. But it's like, okay, I'm the nutcase. I went in there. They're the professionals. Someone should have talked me out of it.
I totally agree.
But I was not in the right frame of mind, because
just like with the hormones. You don't go and walk into a doctor's office and say, okay, I want this and this and this kind of medication because I feel like having it. It doesn't work that way. And it is up to the physician to say, I'm sorry, but I cannot provide you with this unless I know for a fact that you have gender dysphoria. I can't just go ahead and prescribe things.
Yeah, because there's no test. There's absolutely no test that could prove that anyone has gender dysphoria.
Right.
You have a headache and you've had a headache for a while. You go in an MRI and, oh, you got a tumor in your head. Oof,
right.
Remove it, or you start having pains on your side. They give you an ultrasound. Ooh, we found some stones in your kidneys.
Right.
Whatever it is, that even mental conditions, there are certain tests for certain, like schizophrenia and things like that, but it could accurately say, yes, without a shadow of a doubt, you've got this. Not with gender dysphoria.
No. But even back when, in the 1970s, where they did have, at the time, you had to undergo psychological evaluations. You had to. They didn't just prescribe hormones at the drop of a hat. You had to live as that preferred gender for X amount of time. I believe it was 1 or 2 years. It wasn't just something that you walk into a doctor's office and say, I want some hormones because I believe I'm a woman or I'm a man. And well, here you go. If you believe it, it must be true.
Things have changed dramatically. They removed the gatekeeper and they wanted it that way. Not that I agree with any which way, whether you live 2 years as, wearing women's clothes and then all of a sudden, we have to respect biology. Biology is biology for a reason. It's like one of those things.
I understand that, but at least I agree with you. But at least before, doctors were not so, okay, here you go. Here's your prescription. And then have surgery. And then, our insurance company would said, yeah, we'll be happy to give him surgery.
Yeah, everything's changing in the world today. And it's all driven by the agenda. And if people can't see that, they're either blind or they're just in denial, because they're, it is what it is. It's really, let's see what we got here. Chevelle, very traumatized from her mother, and became distant and angered. And then she says, on her deathbed, my mother begged for my forgiveness, which I gave. But what about my psychological pain now? What do I do with it now after your death? And see, that's one of the things that I always tell people, make sure you know what you're doing, because at the moment you might be all gun-ho, like your son. He's all gun-ho. He thinks this is it. He's not going to make a mistake, but he doesn't realize the harm that he's doing to you, to his siblings, to his father, and that one day he'll wake up and goes, this is wrong. I did 38 years later. It took me to realize that, wow, what did I do? And it caused a lot of harm.
And he's isolated himself as well from the people that love him, and even from the friends he had in middle school and high school. He's isolated himself, and now he's got this brand new community that is embracing him, but where are they going to be?
Yeah, when he gets sick, when something happens. See, one of the things, and again, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, one of the things that I've noticed living in the LGBT for 38 years, that you have friends when it's party time. When you're partying, everybody wants to be your friend. But when you really have something going on with you, you get sick, you get hospitalized, whatever, very few. Not saying they're not all of them, because there are some very nice, kind-hearted people that identify as gay, lesbian, or trans.
Sure.
They have good hearts. I can't say that all of them are nutcases, that all of them are crazy, that all of them are vindictive. No, there are some generally nice people out there that are just confused, that have fallen into the lie for whatever reason. Right. But the majority of them, all they want to do is party. A big majority. I mean, look at Pride Fest. Bunch of people walking around half naked, drunk, and it's like, again, not everybody has that lifestyle. There's some old gay married couple that have been together for years and they just.
And I know some, of course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's the exception to the rule.
Right. Right.
And that's what people need to understand. Let me go ahead and read what David said. David says, God's the only answer. God's showing me that I have to give him my deepest pain and lean on him completely. It's super duper hard, but I've never regretted it when I did. And amen to that, David. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, brother. It's true. We have to carry our own cross. We can't just me. I. We've got to.
Yeah. I have to, I have to give this to God. I don't have the ability to do anything. My hands are completely tied. The only one who can take my son out of this is the Lord. I can't. He's not going to listen to me. He'll listen to others, but not me. And, I pray to God that he brings people into his life that will show him mercy and love and compassion.
Yeah, and that's what we got to do because they're hurt. They're somehow, some way, your son got hurt somewhere along the line where he hates himself, the body that God gave him, and he thinks by changing that, things are going to get better. Because I don't care who you are. I don't care when you do this, there is something that you're trying to run away from, some awful pain. And I'm telling you, my heart breaks. And God's teaching me how to learn how to have compassion. Because I've got the logistic down right, but God's teaching me how to have compassion and how to be able to reach individuals out there.
Right.
To tell them, hey, we love you. You're perfect the way you are. I'm sorry that life has treated you the way that it has, but there's no need for you to hurt yourself further. Come, let's talk about God.
Mm-hmm.
How much God loves you. This body is short-lived, but eternity is forever because we have a soul, we have a spirit that lives forever. Mm-hmm. And that's where the problem lies. And we don't want to see, I'm sure you don't want to see your son in eternal damnation. That's probably eating you up alive.
It is beyond words.
I'm sure it's like, and I wish I could understand that. I wish I could understand that the reason that we are so adamant about this is because we love them.
Right.
Want to see what's best for them.
Right.
We're not on some sort of propaganda or campaign to try to hurt the LGBT.
No. I don't want any harm to come to him or anybody.
Of course.
Because it is very sad. I think this is a very sad place to be.
Exactly.
But what do we do?
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And Vahid has another question here. How long after he started attending university did this happen? Did he show any signs of hanging out with LGBT people that might have influenced him immediately upon entry?
Yes, and he entered Georgia Tech in January of last year. And I know that he did meet, because he talked about them, several people in the LGBTQ. There's other letters attached now. I'm not aware of what they are, but he did talk about a couple of people who were men transitioning or, I guess transitioning to become women. But, I honestly thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, it's sad, because I do think it's sad. But then 4 months later is when he started thinking that he was transgender himself. So it wasn't a very long time after.
Right. It's really funny because there's a terminology called rapid onset gender
Right.
dysphoria,
Mhm.
but they've equated that to females, not to boys. So I guess that the same thing would be also with the
Yes.
boys.
And yeah, I've read about that. It's Dr. Lisa Littman, I believe it is. And she's the one, she's at Brown University.
Okay.
And she did say that it is predominantly a female thing, but yes, also they see it a lot more in females than in men, but it is also that rapid onset gender dysphoria.
And it's, you know, the whole concept of it is if you have somebody that never showed any sign and all of a sudden, you know, it's like there's no rite of passage. Everything's pretty much handed down to us. We don't have to hunt for food. We don't really have the
Right.
structures that we had back in the older days. So now people are like, what do we do? Life is boring. You know, everything is so easy. So, you know, this whole changing genders become a massive thing. It's like, yeah, well, I want to feel like I belong. It's like being part of a gang, you know?
Right.
You know, so homosexuality has been shamed forever. So I know with me, and I can only speak for myself, like I felt shame being seen as a lesbian. So when I saw this as an alternative, I was like, well, there we go. That's me. I'm Archangelo. You know, all of a sudden, you know, it's just like, boom. Right. And that I thought that was going to just like, you know, I got into bodybuilding and before thinking about changing my gender, I got into bodybuilding. I started seeing this powerful body that was developing. As a female, we're taught we have no power, we're worthless, just go in the kitchen, little lady, you know. So that young women don't want that. You know, they like the flat chest that they see in men. They want that too because all their life they've been objectified with the breast, so or sexually molested. So becoming a guy was a solution for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So somewhere down the line with your son, something happened where his manhood was questioned. He didn't and could have been second grade. Hey, you look like a girl. You know,
Yes.
that planted something in there.
Right.
And all of a sudden he figures, well, if I look like a girl, I might as well be a girl. I get a lot more attention. I hear that a lot from a lot of trans women.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that they like the attention. They like doors being open to them. They don't want the responsibility of being a man.
That's interesting. That is interesting because I do believe that is also a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is that having to be responsible, and unfortunately, we as parents did not give him a lot of responsibility. Everything was given to him.
There you go. Sorry.
You know, he never worked.
There you go.
Never worked. Never. He had everything handed to him.
Yeah.
And that is, again, it's, you think you're doing the right thing because you have the ability to do that. You know, if you want to go to a math competition, here's, you know, we would buy him the plane ticket. He'd go, we'd get the hotel. When he went to Germany, oh, okay, you want to go to Germany? And that's, he's always been a great kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had any kind of responsibility.
And that's a problem. And
that is a problem.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, this whole gender craze, this whole identity crisis, because people have not been given any responsibility.
Right.
Of this day, I hate to say, but they're pretty worthless, you know, even though they're smart and whatever else, but no tienen, you know, what people had when they had to worry about things, you know.
Exactly. See,
nowadays everything's handed down to them, so they're bored. So
yeah, like I said, it was our mistake, and I really didn't. I never thought of it as I'm harming him.
Yeah.
By not giving him, you know, go work at Publix, go whatever, go mow lawns for $20, and he never and I think that's been a problem because he shies away from responsibility.
And that we're seeing that a lot nowadays. I got interviewed by a very famous YouTuber Calvin. And, because I believe there's just two school of thought, a lot of trauma or excessively spoiled child. Those are the two type of things, you either have your traumatic, and you're raised by nurturing parents, so you have a parent wound, or you were given too much. And the person who interviewed me, I believe they fall into the given too much, Bally type of girl, everything they had, perfect parents that allowed them to do whatever they want. And that's bad. When you allow a kid to do whatever they want, that's not good.
Right.
Because then we get this sense of entitlement. You get a sense of like, what else can I do? There's nothing left. Oh, wait, I'll change my gender.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as allowing him to do whatever he wanted to do, he was, like I said, he never gave us a lot of grief.
Right.
He was always a really respectful, really good kid.
Right.
So I personally never felt like,
but
like
you
he
didn't
was
give it the
giving him
responsibility.
so much. I just thought, he's so good that if he wants to go to this competition in Boston, he should go. If he wants to go to Germany, he should go. If he never worked for it really, except academically. But I now realize that we did make mistakes in that regard.
And you know what? There's no manual, so don't kick yourself
Right.
nowhere. Right. There's no manual. I mean, there should be a manual where people said, "Here, read this before you get pregnant."
Right.
As a child, homeschooling is one of the greatest things because the child doesn't get to see all the stuff that's out there. And teach a child responsibility. Teach a child to earn things in life. Teach a child not everything comes easy, because nowadays kids, they ask and they get. It's like a very common thing.
And I have to say that was hard.
Yeah.
He pretty much got everything he wanted.
Yeah, and that now, hindsight 2020.
Exactly.
We're seeing that it does cause a lot of problems. Just another question for you: how does your husband deal with this?
He's having a tough time. He's having a very difficult time. He doesn't understand it either. He's very upset. He's very angry. He feels also, everything was given to you and you're just ungrateful and you haven't valued all that has been handed to you. And I really believe that when people are handed things, there is no value in it.
No.
Because you don't work for it.
No.
So it's been a very difficult, it's been a difficult journey, and I know it's not over, so it will continue to be difficult. But, we will be there for him.
Right. Of course. I mean, as parents, you don't want to abandon your child. I don't promote at all these parents that kick their gay kids out. I mean, you bring them to the earth. You may not like what they're doing, but you don't kick them out. You don't hurt them. You don't, because I had a guest whose mother literally I don't know if she kicked him out, but he ended up being in the streets, and that makes matters worse. You got to take.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's terrible. You got to take care of your own, but we've got to find ways to appeal to these lost souls. And again, my opinion is that we were lost souls. I was a lost soul. I'm a sinner still, even though I follow God.
Always, yes. I mean,
we're all sinners. We are. This right here, and not one sin is bigger than the other. Sin is sin, and we've got to know that.
If we weren't, Jesus would never have had to come. So
exactly. But we need to find a way. I really and truly want to find a way where, gosh, we could help people, because they struggle. I know they struggle. I don't believe in gender dysphoria because it's not tangible. I believe they're situational, but I know they suffer. I'm not going to say, hey, you don't suffer, because I know I've witnessed many people in the community, people that I love, suffer. I know there's pain, and that breaks my heart, and I don't want them to suffer. But I know, you may find a little reprieve from doing what you're doing, but that suffering is never going to go away because we're not giving it the proper solution. And in my opinion, the only true solution is God. That's the only true love. When you find that peace in your heart, it's just amazing. It's amazing because it changes you. You're no longer trying to find what's next. What's the next high? What's the next thing I want? What's the next? You'll be void for the rest of your life until you get filled with the Holy Spirit.
And you're right, Maritza. This is not just necessarily true for the LGBT community. I think that happens with a lot of people where there is a void.
Yeah.
And when you do have a void, you're always looking for something else to make you happy.
It's not just an LGBT disease. It's
right.
Worldwide. We're all sinners. We all, whether it's alcohol, food. I mean, one of the things I want to be able to do is educate Christians on how to eat right, how to take care of their temple, because there's just everything. I mean, there's just so many things, Jessica. Satan's an equal opportunist. He doesn't just, he's going to mess with all of us,
Exactly. And he knows how to mess with us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how because he hates God's creation.
Right.
He hates us.
And how do you think we can help? How do we help them if they won't listen to anything that goes against what their belief system is?
Well, this is where the professionals that are catering to those in the LGBT community are very crucial. These people need to stop doing what they're doing, stop propagating it, stop one size fits all. So we need to go into the political arena, change all these stupid laws that they are not allowing behavioral therapy and calling it conversion therapy. These clinics have to we have to go in there and they have to allow two sides. Colleges need to allow two sides. Everything needs to allow the two sides. So people want to enter the churches and I say, okay, fine. You want the love of God? You want to, but then we've got to also be allowed as Christians to state our views and our opinions in places that matter, in colleges and in the medical arena, so that there is two sides so that people can make their minds up.
And that's the problem, I believe, is also with the medical community, that they are not speaking up. They're trying to change even the psychological, the American Psychological Association is even trying to change.
Yeah. It's money. Money is they're creating campaigns, they're paying people to alter documents and things of that nature to get what they want. And this needs to stop. But I say people need to rise up in love and in kindness, but we need to be able to change the ship around because this train is heading for a massive disaster. But he said he possibly heard from other people in the school that he would make a pretty girl. And that, like I said, words are so influential. We have to be so careful what we say and how we say it. And I'm guilty.
Maybe he has. I can't attest to that. He's a very handsome young man.
Yeah. And that's what happens when they see themselves so handsome and so, I could probably make a pretty girl.
He's a very handsome young man. He's very tall, slender. Yeah. And he is very handsome. I don't know if somebody said you'd make a pretty girl. That's not something I've ever said to a man. So, just like I don't think I would tell a woman you'd make a great looking man. I just don't say that.
Right.
But it could be.
Yeah, possibility. There's so many different things. And T wants to know, what is your son's given name? I don't know if
Aaron.
Aaron. Okay, Aaron. And let's see what else we got here. Doug is a genetically born man who went all the way. He had all his surgeries. He found God, and he is no longer identifying as a female. Praise God for that.
Yeah.
He now has to live with the ramifications of his actions and what he's done to himself. But he's a wonderful, wonderful man. I love him very much. He's a brother in Christ. And he says, Wahid, I sure heard that I would make a pretty girl all my life. Most of the time I was offended, but later in life, the seeds had been sown. And see, that's what happens. Words, 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 you know, words
Right.
really get
Yeah, words are very powerful.
very, extremely powerful. Thank you, Vahid. Yes, if you guys are enjoying the interview, if you guys are enjoying what I do, please remember to support the channel. Subscribe, like, share, and no small amount is too small. There's my PayPal, which, by the way, has been changed to Maritza Cummings, but the link, PayPal me, once you get that link, is there for life. So, and I feel, well, that's part of my history. That's part of my testimony. That's
Right.
the scars, like the scars on my chest, like, you know, the voice that will never return back to being, although it's changed dramatically compared to how I was before. But there's certain things that once you are a female and you give yourself androgen, there's certain things like the bald head, the hair in the body, which, you know, and that's so, it takes so much to like try to money, number one, and just a lot of stuff that needs to try to revert all the damage that I've caused.
Right. That's so, it's so sad. It's
Yeah.
so sad to me.
It is. It is. And with your son, you know, the possibility, unless he saves some of his sperm, you know, because it takes, he's been on hormone for a year. Sometimes that can be reversed. Sometimes not.
From my understanding, what he's taking pretty much after a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's developed breasts already.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what happens.
And I think, wow, that must be some powerful stuff.
It is. It is. We see it in the food supply. That's why we see a lot of men who don't identify as women have developed breasts because of all the hormones in the chicken and in the cows and all that stuff. And it's pretty sad because he's 18. Has he no one? Because they don't ask you these things. These doctors don't give you the truth about the side effects, cancer, strokes, heart attacks. You're going to become infertile. You know, like when he gets 24, 25, when the brain matter is already developed, he's going to say, oh my God, I want to be a father and I can't.
He's aware of it, Maritza, because I did tell him
Okay.
all of the side effects. And his response was, that's fine.
That's what he says now. See, that's
exactly. He's like, well, I don't know if I want children. And you know, if
Yeah.
I told him, you know, you have the cancer, stroke, cardiovascular, there are so many things tied to these hormones, especially with the amounts they are given.
Oh, I know. And the blocker, is he on blockers as well?
Yes.
And that spirulactone has so many side effects. It actually does affect anger and the change. The spirulactone creates anger and changes in the personality. It really
and that's exactly what he's taking, that and estradiol. And the change in his personality is dramatic.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Not to mention his physical appearance.
Yeah.
His face has feminized.
Yeah.
He's developed breasts. He's lost weight.
Yeah.
He's very tall, and he's weighing like 145 pounds. He's 6'1".
Wow.
So he's like, it's crazy what it's doing to him, and I don't think he even realizes the anger, the crying,
yeah.
I don't think he puts two and two together.
They don't. They've kind of like put a veil in front of their eyes, and they can't see. They're like, it's like a blinders when you're a horse and those things, and you're just going forward and not even thinking about the ramifications,
right?
Health of what you're doing to yourself and to others, you know, and the side effects, because a lot of them don't want to believe that there's side effects. Every medication that we ever take has side effects.
Of course.
On TV, they're advertising all these pharmaceuticals, and the side effects is worse than the original.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But it's sad, I want people to just learn the truth. And then if you still want it, then okay, you're gonna face the maker one day, and you're gonna, even when you're here, never mind what happens when you get to face the maker, the things that you're gonna deal with. People end up alone, or they
Yeah.
end up being sex objects for people.
Yes.
A lot of them end up dead.
Yes.
There's the list of transgender women, Day of Remembrance, is getting larger and longer because, they don't want to tell the person they're going to bed with who they are. And then the person finds out and they get enraged and they get angry.
And naturally so. I mean, that's a tough one. I don't even think about that. I'm just.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of hard. You worry for people you love. Like, are they going to like meet up with some crazy serial killer that hates trans women
Exactly.
and lure them in, and boom,
You don't know.
you don't.
He claims to be, which is another thing I don't understand per se, because excuse me, he claims to be a lesbian woman.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a hard one for me to understand as well.
Yeah. You know what happens? And I've had shows about this, that the autogynephilia, which,
Yes.
and I'm sure you've like really got into that. So, when they claim to be lesbians, they're attracted to women. So see, that's where that rejection, when he was younger, that his girlfriend rejected him, that is where it all stemmed from. That's where the autogynephilic wound began, in my humble opinion. And now he's like, he wants to become a woman and still is attracted to women. And there's just some sort of, it's like a sexual preference. That's what they're calling it. It's a sexual preference, because they're creating a woman that they want to admire, and they fall in love with themselves with that image. And then the ultimate is for them to be with another woman. And some of them, they'll go out with guys because that plays the character and plays into the character. I mean, it's really, there's so much.
It's very complicated. That's very complicated to me. It's hard for me to comprehend.
Yeah, because it is. It's complicated, but it's deep. And there's a lot of articles that have been done regarding it. There's a lot of research. The doctors that brought this forward literally almost got destroyed, just like they tried to destroy Zucker. They destroyed Blanchard and Bailey, and because they're ashamed. Many in the community are ashamed of this sexuality, and they want to destroy people, at all costs. And it's like, that's so like not right. It's like, I believe that help is needed. They need to really get help, to really,
I believe this is a huge mental issue. Because any logical person, I can't, for me, it's very difficult to comprehend. I'm a man who thinks I'm a woman, excuse me, who wants to be with women. And it's like, your options are quite limited at that point, I believe.
They are. And that's why they the majority end up alone. And then, I mean, loneliness, especially as you get older. I mean, I'm 55, and it breaks my heart that my marriage didn't work out, because it's like, it's like you have to start over again. And what if you don't find somebody, but it's hard. It's hard when you're a trans person. Your dating pool really slims down, and the people that that you find in your life, like you don't know what's the outcome, and it's just sad. It is
a very sad place to be. I agree with you, although I haven't lived that, but I'm seeing it in my son, and I see that it's just not a happy place.
Yeah. And but he said, Davis said he was grateful his mother didn't let him live under her roof as a homosexual right? Yeah, he did. And he was pretty glad that his mother kind of, because, you know, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom
Right.
before you realize, what have I done?
Yes.
You know, and sometimes, you know, things like that have to take place. I really, really, truly believe that we as Christians and even non-Christians alike, because we all have to like really put our heads together to bring humanity back to some center, to some normalcy, whether you believe in God or not. And I wish that people would all believe in God, because that's the path that we need to
I
be
agree.
on. But we need to unite to be able to solve this elephant in the room, because it's a big elephant and it's taking
Yes.
up a lot of room, you know, and we need to like work this out, try to help those that are, and I, in my opinion, are victim of this transgender or gay lesbian, I hate to use the word lifestyle, but that's what it is. Because I don't believe anybody's born gay, and this is my opinion. You
Right.
know, I don't believe anyone's born gay, and I don't believe anyone's born in the wrong body. So we've got to find a way to be able to heal, to understand this deeper, not just some propaganda, not just some marketing scheme, or not some Nike commercial. You know, real people are being affected by this.
A lot of free people.
Well,
There's a lot of people. I had no idea. I'll be very honest. I was very ignorant about this.
oh, you broke up.
That as much as I knew, and that was the extent of my knowledge until I became aware of my son. And then I started getting out, doing research, talking to people, joining groups of mothers, mostly, that have been affected by this. And it is so sad.
It is.
It's so sad because I hear so many stories.
Yeah. What he needs to do is he needs to talk to some older trans, you know, ex-trans people that you know, and there's a lot of people that don't detransition, but they regret what they did. They're just like,
Right.
what can I do now? You know, that kind of
Right.
thing.
I've been living this way X amount of years, so
Yeah, but they regret it. There's a lot of older, you know, people that regret. I mean, Fahid says that their genitalia shrinks. Obviously, you know, it does because of the blockers and the estradiol, and then you get osteoporosis because your bones are
right,
being mineralized because you're messing with your endocrine system, and anytime you
right,
mess with your endocrine system, bad things happen to your body. That's how it goes.
right.
And but he wants to know how he's doing in school. Is he still successful in his studies, or has that gone down the drain?
Um, he's very successful.
Okay, that's good.
Um, he does he does very well in school. Um, he hasn't started the fall semester yet, so I don't know if, again, this is fairly new as far as I'm concerned because it's been a year. Um, so, but I have heard of other parents whose sons are in college, then they leave college, they drop out because their health suffers.
Right.
So I don't know if it's going to affect him later on. As it stands now, he's doing quite well.
What happens is after a while they become so consumed with their change,
Right,
and like as the pharmaceuticals start taking more place in his body, the brain starts to change. There's more anger. They become more anxious. I've seen videos of trans individuals after 2 or 3 years that become even more depressed, more anxious kicks in. It you know, and again, I'm not speaking for everyone, but this is what I've seen, what I've actually, you know, observed, and it's not pretty.
that is my understanding as well. I also hear that they believe that if you change your mind, you were really not transgender to begin with.
And that's the
So
latest.
that's another thing. How do you combat that? With someone like you, Maritza,
Yeah. Oh,
how
yeah.
how do you combat that when then they say, well, then they really weren't?
That's right. Yeah, I just took my breast out and had a hysterectomy because
you felt like it.
Yeah, because I felt like it, But it's my whole concept is, if there's no such thing as gender dysphoria. Again, I'm not saying that people don't suffer. I'm not saying people don't literally have this angst about wanting to change, but there's no actual objective testing to this. So how can you say, well, this person's trans and this person's not trans? There's no such thing. There's no way of saying that. It's just another way of trans advocates to try to silence people like myself and try to like erase the transitioners,
right,
and erase ex-gays. Because if we're able to do it, then they could do it too, but they don't want to.
Right.
Because they're still living that honeymoon stage. And I always say there's a honeymoon stage. How long it lasts for everybody, that's very individual. Some people could be a couple of years. Some people could be, 10 years. Some people could be 38 years. I mean, it's like you get to a point where for me, I kept hearing imposter. I'm like, I'm not a man. I'll never be a man. I can't do the things men do. I don't have the spatial relations. I don't have, my hands are not big. I've got small feet. I'm only 5'4". I can't father a baby. I mean, there's just so many things.
I mean, even lung capacity for men and women is different.
Yeah.
So there are so many differences between men and women, whether we want to admit them or not. That's another story, but there are differences. That's why I don't even know what to call, sorry, the transgender men who identify as women are, in competitive sports, they're beating, when they're playing with women, they are beating them.
Yeah.
And because you cannot compete.
You can't. Biologically, it doesn't matter. I know that they're blocking their testosterone. I know that they're taking estradiol, and in their mind, that makes them in a fair game. But it's not, because muscle has memory. Bone structure doesn't diminish. Nervous system conduction of the muscle and the memory formed in the structure and how a person presents themselves, how they walk, how they do. They have an advantage. They really do. They're changing the whole skew. They're skewing the outcomes in women's sport. There might as well not be a women's sport anymore, because it's wrong.
And then you have that lung capacity, and it's I think it's crazy what's taking place.
So I don't know if this is kind of the same question. What does his studies look like now? I know you said he was very smart of his stuff. I think we kind of answered that one earlier, or is it a different one? Something which is new personality. And you said that his personality changed from night to day, and that is like, that makes me alert to the fact of personality disorder, or disassociation disorder, when you are able to change personality from one, and they don't see it. They'll say they're the same. They've always been the same.
Yeah, I don't think
people say that, but
and it's interesting, because even the way he presents himself, the way he walks, you can tell it's almost forced.
Yeah. Oh.
When
he
remembers,
like freezing.
First, he really tried to.
We're having freezing moments here. I hope that I didn't fully lose you.
I can see it.
Okay, say that again, because nothing that you said.
Even his mannerisms have. It's almost like somebody's coaching him to walk a certain way, to talk a certain way, the things he does with his hair. And it's when he remembers. It's not always the case. It's someone who doesn't remember, hey, I'm a woman, so I'm going to walk like a guy. And then he'll remember, oh, really, I'm a girl, so let me just prance around and do this with my hair. It's so
scripted.
Scripture, yes. It's like, oh my goodness. And I watch and I look and I'm thinking, he forgets.
Well, because it's not, he wasn't born that way. He wasn't,
Natural to him.
he wasn't socialized that way. So now they have to over exaggerate to try to, pretend that, yeah.
Right.
So Dollhouse joins us. Welcome. And she says, when both my parents were psychiatric nurses, they did get help standards change over the years. Yeah. And that's, and that brings what Vahid is saying, speak about the mental impairments that are associated with taking blockers and hormones. How does it change the mind? It does completely. It alters the receptors in the mind. That's why the change of personality, that's why the change of predisposition to like anger and things of that nature, because you are literally changing the circuitry in the mind,
Right.
which affects every neurological sense in that body. And, it's very damaging. It's like a person with Alzheimer's that, starts to get very angry, a dementia patient who starts off at certain stages and they become violent and they become forgetful and they change completely. Or like a brain damaged person who had total brain damage from a car accident or something like that, the personality changes. I've had wives of one past patients of mine who's like, their personality, they're not the same. They're yelling all the time. It's because the frontal lobe got damaged. Well, chemicals will damage your brain just as if anybody went with a sledgehammer and hit you in the head.
And I have witnessed that with him. He was not an angry person. And now he's just
very angry. Yeah.
Very angry. Very angry.
Yeah, and Doug says the majority of trans women partner up with trans women. Yeah, because after a while, seriously, a biological man doesn't want to be long term with a transgender female, because some of these guys want to have a family. They want, just normalcy. They'll maybe go out with you for a while. Then maybe even, we saw that one of the big names, Janet Mock, she got married, and everybody's like, look, see, a trans woman got married to a biological man. That marriage lasted 3 years, if that.
Who was it? I'm sorry, who was that?
Janet Mock.
Okay, not heard of.
Yeah, very, very popular. Aside from Laverne Cox, Janet Mock, she used to be she was on, what's his name, Pierce something or another. He interviewed her.
Pierce Morgan?
Yes, and they wrote a book, and they were married for 3 years, and that marriage went down the tube because it's a dynamic. As much as a trans woman wants to behave as a woman, there's still that socialization, that wanting to take control. It's just a dynamic that cannot be altered. So biological men, unless they're like really, really like of the character that have very mellow out demeanor, you're going to get out of this.
Right.
And that's why there's violence and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Rock bottom is a place where there's no one else but Jesus to grab you and pull you out of the pit. You're finally depending on him, and it's hard, but it is what helps many. And I agree. That's what happened. Rock bottom, I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. My heart was just so hurt. It's just like I wanted that relationship to work so bad, but we weren't working. So it was just like, God help me, God, I just, it's sad. It's really, really sad because, you want what you want, but you don't realize that you don't always get what you want. And it's sad. It's really, really, really sad.
It is a sad place to be.
Yeah, it is. It's sad.
I'm seeing that not only for the person living it, but the families. I'm seeing a lot of parents are heartbroken.
They are.
Heartbroken with this.
Yeah, but he says biology is the new hate speech, and we've got to stop that. That's just got to stop. It's like people need to be allowed to express, to share their emotions, to put two different. Okay, this is part A, this is part B. You believe part A, I believe part B. Well, let's allow people to choose. Let's not call part B hate because it doesn't jive with part A.
Right.
I mean, that's communism. That's you know.
Yeah. We're bigots and homophobes and all kinds of things, and that's not the case at all. It's just with me in particular, I needed to find out what was happening.
Yeah.
And that's why I've done the research.
All of a sudden you got very clear. So either somebody else was using bandwidth in the house and they stopped using it or something, because you were very fuzzy throughout the entire show. And now you're
Okay.
super clear. I have a story, but I hear, just about everything. Let's see. Satan needs to stop ripping families apart. Enough already. And that's, like you said, it's an assault on the family.
Oh, yeah.
It is a massive assault. And it's sad. My God, who wants to have their family torn apart? No one. I mean, I hate what I did to my mom. I hate that I put her through years of that because, she was always, worried about me. It's like not fun.
It's what we do. We worry.
Yeah.
We do worry. And I worry. I worry about all my kids.
Sure.
But in particular now him, because I know what's taking place in his life.
Exactly. So what is your goals now as far as being involved in the LGBT as a mother of a trans child? Are you going to help bring awareness? Well, I think this was our first step right here, being on the show. When you called me the other day, you were like, how can I help you?
Right.
And I'm like, well, we'll see what we could.
I've been calling people on each side. Then I'm trying to do as much as I can, and I will continue doing so.
Right.
Because there has to be awareness. People are not aware unless you're in my situation or parents that are in our situation. People are not aware of this.
No, they're not. That's why education. That's why this channel is so important. That's why people have to subscribe, donate, get this channel to be known. And I'm trying to get other channels just in case, if this gets knocked out, then I have other platforms. I mean, I'm going to be involved in a lot of local things. I'm going to be part of a Christian network as well. Other things to get the message out there, because people are none the wiser. They don't understand this. I want to go into different churches and want to be able to get into colleges. And I know the colleges only want the one way, but we've got to change that. That's where the help needs to be. We've got to change the way things are being done.
Yes, and make people aware, because like I said, I tell my own family members, and they don't. It's almost like they don't understand that this is actually happening.
Yeah, because they have no clue.
You tell somebody, they're doing this to children.
Yeah.
And they don't. They kind of question.
Yeah,
that.
They don't know what's going on.
Like, really? Children?
Yeah.
Yes, they're doing this to children.
Yes.
There's a little boy in Texas that is 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother wants to transition him and start at the age of 8, I believe. He's going to be chemically castrated. And the father is against it, and the court sided with the mother.
See, people need to really get up and rile up and go to the representatives and go to colleges and say, we want another side. We want other alternatives. Right. This one size fits all doesn't work. So let's say maybe out of 100 people, one is actually truly experiencing something which possibly comes from being intersex and they don't know.
Okay.
Well, 1 out of 100. I mean, you can't change the laws for 1 out of 100.
Right.
So that's the thing. So even trans people, if you claim to be genuine, that you should be also upset at what's taking place, because everybody and their mother are being transitioned.
Yes.
And
parents are being led astray as well. By when I first found out, I called my son's pediatrician, and she's actually a lovely woman, and I explained to her what was happening with my son. And the first thing she said to me, well, Jessica, you really have to, I know it's very difficult, but you really have to support your son, because if not, and I'm thinking, no, we need to have, parents need to be aware that these children are not going to be any after transition.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's crazy.
and as far as our representative, I did call our representative, and she basically said to me, well, join PFLAG.
Because she's not educated. That's the problem.
Exactly. And that's the one I told. I'm going to get all these articles together for you, and I'm going to submit them to you.
Yeah, and see, this is where I come in. I would love to do seminars to educate these people that are not educated and tell them, hey, this is what it is right here. Now you have two sides, make a decision, but.
And really, who better than you who's been through it?
Yeah. And this is why I need the support to be able to get myself out there, to be able to do the things that I want to do, because not too many people are talking this, and they want to like shut my channel down. And I say, okay, well, you're just going to add more work to me, because, YouTube is not the only outlet out there.
Right.
What, you're going to like shoot me so that I can't speak in places, or I can't write articles, and things of that nature. And they just have to like understand that there's always two sides to everything. Right. And they've got to allow that, because this one size fits all just doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work at all. And my gosh, it's already 1 o'clock and we've just like been rambling away. It's been 2 hours. It's been amazing.
Wow.
I know. So yeah, it's been really great. Would you honor us with an ending prayer? Do you feel comfortable praying?
I'm going to start crying, Maritza.
And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's powerful. I usually put a little prayer music to kind of, make it, I don't know. I find that the prayer music kind of really, really and truly helps. Before you start to pray, I want to take this time to thank all of you. Thank you, Vahi, for the great job of moderating that you do and all the great questions. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Dollhouse, or Madeline is her name. Thank you. Who else have I missed? Teen, Chevelle. She left early, but she had a doctor's appointment. David, I don't know if you're still around, but thank you so much. Thank you, Miller Man, for your kind words and support as always. Pilgrim Progress, and all of you. If I've missed anyone, I'm sorry. Thank you all for tuning in and for being part of this amazing interview. The true victims, the ones that really have to deal with trying to accept something that is very unacceptable. I know that there are many parents out there that kind of go along to get along because they don't want to harm their kids, but I say to you, you're harming them even worse, because you know it's a lie. You know that a boy can never be a girl and a girl can never be a boy. God doesn't make mistakes, but God loves you and he wants to help you. And now, Jessica, if you would.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come before Maritza. And for Maritza, Lord, I ask that you continue to bless her and support her team, so that she can put forth the word about this evil and these lies that are being fed to our children, Father. I thank you for the healing that is going to take place in our children's lives and the healing of our families, Lord. I ask that you bring people up, and you allow voices like Maritza's to be heard throughout our nation, Lord. That you give her the strength and the power to continue her ministry, Father. I thank you, Lord, for what you are doing, because you are in control. And your grace and your mercy and your love is with her, Father. I thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
And Father, please listen to this woman's prayer. Let her son return to her as her son. There is nothing, Father, that you cannot do. I pray that you soften his heart, that you let him realize that he is not a mistake, that rejection he felt a long time ago, Father, gets healed, that the enemy can no longer continue to put his filth in his mind and in his heart. Help it, Father. Help this woman get her son back. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. I am so sorry that you're going through this. And like you, there are many out there that have gone through this, that are going through this, and have lost their loved ones. No one should ever have to lose a loved one, because it's like a death without there being death. That's just crazy. So thank everyone. Thank you everyone for being here today, for joining us on this interview. We need help. We need to really try to find a way to turn this around, or at least to be able to have a second voice so that people can make choices. Not everyone's trans. Not everyone suffers from what they believe is gender dysphoria.
Right.
Something's going on here, folks. And even those of you that are trans yourself, you find that, you're seeing what's going on. I beg you, please, let's help humanity. Let's stop making these parents become fatherless or motherless because they're losing their sons and their daughters to this devastation. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, and same time, same station. God bless you all. I love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Have a good one and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.